So what's up, everybody? This is your boy Jonathan. Sorry about the shaky cam, action movie. No, it's not an action movie, but sorry about the shaky cam. I was trying to set up. I'm in Whole Foods right now. There's a lot of stuff going on, but what I wanted to do is talk about my father, right? And the things that I learned and the things that were generationally off. And so I want to discuss some of those things. Okay, so my father was a good man. Like, when he was in high school, he ran track and he swam. He was a swimmer. And so he used that to build up his physique, and that made him an interesting character, and it added his whole character as a person. And when I was growing up, he would always take my brothers to the beach, and they would surf and boogie board, and he got my brothers into swimming and in the swimming pool, and he was able to get them to be lifeguards, and that was really cool. And it always added to their character, and it helped them out. And hearing about him as a kid and what he did in high school, that was one of my influences to be a dancer. Find something cool that you could do, and then it'll add to your character. So now, like, when I go to the club, I can dance and show girls that I could dance, or I could just use that as a way to interest women. And the same thing with my brothers, like, they do, they can surf, and my brother works as a lifeguard, and that's interesting to women too. So that's number one. He taught me, to try to find some kind of activity or cool hobby, and then, women like that. They really do. Another thing, my dad was a very hardworking man. He had my sister in high school, and then he was like, I gotta marry your mom and handle my business. So he did. And he joined the Army, was in the Army for 10 years, and he did what he had to do. He got out of the Army, and there wasn't a lot of jobs at the time because it was San Francisco during the crack cocaine epidemic. And what did he do? He went down to McDonald's, got himself a job as a worker, and then moved up to management, and that was pretty cool. And then he got a job at the post office and been working there ever since. Full benefits, union, making 20 something an hour, which is pretty good. 8-hour shifts, and his job is pretty simple as a custodian. So the thing about it is, he taught this good work ethic and value that a lot of the men I see around, like the incels that I talked about, they don't have a value like that. It's like, oh, let me get my parents to take care of me. Oh, let me join a religious community to have them take care of me, blah, blah, blah. And then girls don't want to hear that. They want to hear a man, how a man works and takes care of his business and has money to take you out and do stuff with you. You know what I'm saying? That's what girls want to hear about. So that's what he taught me. That was really good. Now, he did teach me some other stuff, and I hate to say this, and the generation was just off. It's a difference in generations. So it wasn't bad advice. It would have worked when he was younger, but the generations have totally changed, so the advice isn't, I don't feel that it's relevant in my personal experience. The first thing he told me to do, which is fake the funk, you basically get a surface level of pop culture and understanding of, like, surface level pop culture and sports or whatever's going on. So when you get into a conversation, you can talk to people, right? Now, with older people, that works because older people have life experience and they understand nobody's perfect, and, they're not really going to pick on you about, just knowing surface level information. But young people, I found out in my personal experience, is that because of Google and because of YouTube and because of smartphones, social media, people can look up what they want to all day. And they can always have things that strengthen their identity all day. So my experience with people, when people talk about sports and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a Niners fan. Okay, do you know anybody on the team? Do you know anything about the Super Bowls? Who did this score and who made that championship? And who, did this, that, and the other. And I'm like, no, don't talk to me. And I've met a lot of people like that, like, famous story when I was at City College, and my parents always talk about, rap music was popular, so I tried to, say I like superficial rap stuff, you know, knew a couple of songs. It's like, well, you don't dress like us. You don't talk in the slang. You don't carry the attitude. And then when I did carry the attitude, you know, I was fake. So you have to really think about that. That's a whole different generation. Right? And so my advice for that is kind of like, focus on more universal people, focus on more older people are generally universal, you know what I'm saying? And just try to find, there's too many superficial people out there and you have to like kind of weed through superficial people. Another thing he told me is that men and women should date a lot so they kind of learn what they like and what they don't like. Well, that's a generation off because before it's like for women, you just had to have a job and be able to support yourself because a lot of women, they didn't get as educated, they didn't have good jobs, they always looked for a man to support them. And on top of that, a lot of women were pushed to just find a man and settle down and marry and have kids. That no longer happens. Women make a lot more money than men now, and they also have smartphones and Tinder, and they're constantly getting DMs every second of the day, so you got to deal with a lot of competition. So I don't think, in my experience, you should... I mean, first of all, it's hard enough for a man to find a woman in the first place. Half of America's single, so it's hard for a man to find a woman in the first place. But the idea of just dating around is kind of like, how do you do that when you can't even find a woman in the first place half the time? And then it's kind of like you a lot of times you're going to end up having to like settle because there's not a lot of women out there like there used to be. I mean, the competition's so high. And to give you an example, like I used to live by that and, you know, have girls eyeballing me in school and stuff. But I was like, I want an Asian girl. I want an Asian girl. I want an Asian girl. Well, I passed up a lot of nice Latino girls who would have dated me for the Asian girls who wouldn't even look my direction or give me the time of day. So that right there is a generation off. Another thing is the idea of waiting on God. Like I was told when I was younger to wait on God, wait on God, wait on God. The issue with that is that it's so competitive out there. You have to actually do something. You have to put your foot forward. You can't just always wait on God. And a lot of times when we wait on God, because it's so competitive out there, we don't build up any skills to actually find a woman. We sit there and just like, okay, I'll wait on God. I'll just mind my business, work, do what I gotta do, and never finding anybody because sometimes we don't get exercise, we don't do any cool activities, we don't worry about our fashion, we don't worry about keeping ourselves together, and then, you know, the women just pass us up because you're waiting on God, and it's too competitive out there to just take the advice and just wait on God. Like, you have to do something. And the fourth thing he told me that was a generation off is the idea of if you can't find nobody, maybe that's not what God has for you. Okay, so first of all, the market's so competitive, right? It's not about that's not what God has for you. God doesn't have anything to do with it. What it has to do with, you have to set yourself up attractive, and you have to prepare yourself so you can attract a woman, and you got to go to the places where you know that your type's at, and then it's the woman's choice. That has nothing to do with God. You know what I'm saying? And that point of view comes from the old school idea. As long as you have a job and you work and you're a good guy, you're going to find a woman because they need a man to support them. But that doesn't work like that anymore. So you can't just sit there and, you know, you can't say, oh, it's God's fault because I don't have a woman. No, you have to figure it out. And if you can't find nobody, it has nothing to do with God. It simply has to do with, you know, the generation and the times and the women that are available. You know, it has nothing to do with God. And I think it's also a disrespect to God to curse God like, oh, God, I couldn't find nobody, so it's your fault, you know. And I'm mad at you because you didn't have a wife for me. It has nothing to do with God. It has to do with you. So, you know, I love my father. He did teach me a lot of good things, and I became a good person. because of it, but just some of the advice was a little bit off for this generation. It was a generation off. So I'm sorry about that, Dad. You are an amazing person. I love my father, but I was just talking about, you know, stuff that was a little generationally off. So that's the video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, and I'll get back to you. All right, everybody, I'm out. Peace.